She's made an album that sounds less like Olivia and more like The Cure. Now, depending on who you ask, that might be the best thing ever or the biggest disaster. And I think the answer lies somewhere in the former. There's something fun about this album, but at the same time, it's something we've all heard before, something we all relate to. We have moments where Olivia is really in her moments and other times where things just sort of drift by. Have you ever considered writing music that's not about love or breaking up?
No.
Okay, I'm being a bit dramatic, of course. Every song feels a bit like the same thing, which makes sense considering the heavy inspiration from The Cure. They pretty much do the same thing, heavy dramatics and love, you know. Even though I think the writing is good enough to keep the same topic of love sounding new, and I kind of like that. It's okay to write about the same thing, right? What we get is a newer, more mature sounding Olivia. Do we miss the pop punky rock version? Yeah, of course, but this is also a good start. We do get a little dying glimpse of this style in the track My Way, which sees Olivia getting a little bit jealous of a girl lingering around her guy, I suppose. Maybe I'm a petty bitch, but you made me resort to this. Some fighting words there. Reminding me of some like early Veronicas or Avril Lavigne or something. We get the sound of these high-pitched siren noises along with heavy guitars, and the bass sounds really nice and the vocal performance is really good. But let's just hold on a second and go back to the start of the album with the opening lead single, Drop Dead, Fred. Starting off with this like really sweet delayed bass. Halfway through I start to think to myself, this is sounding a little similar to, I don't know, Chappelle Rowan or something, which is essentially just this sort of 80s dramatic pop sound. But the vocal melodies are sounding rather familiar, which makes sense because we have the same producer. What do you expect? Either way, I still think it sounds fairly decent. A romantic fling happening in France, ooh la la. Then things start to dip with the next few songs, Stupid Song and Honeybee. It lacks that energy compared to so many other tracks, but the vocals I think are really great, especially hitting those high notes. Then we come to the part of the album where my interest is really peaked with Maggots for Brains. I loved this song. Yeah, is it just The Cure? Yeah, kind of. But it's set for a new audience and I think it does a great job of kind of making it her own and sounding quite fresh. Those little sort of muted drums and that 80s gothy guitar alongside her vocals I think make a great contrast, really working well together. Again, another love song. Yeah, okay, the topic is wearing a bit thin now, but it's sweet and mushy in a zombie maggot kind of way. And this musical theme carries on with you plus me equals... This is more of a 90s Sixpence None the Richer vibe. The vocal melodies are nice and catchy. My only complaint is that it's very rich up in those high ends, making for a slightly jarring mix, and by the end of the song, I'm ready for it to end. At this point, I must say the album does feel a little bit disjointed, but I don't mind it so much. I think the different genres actually makes for quite a interesting listen here. Things don't feel that confused, you know? After some 90s and 80s gothy, you know, sort of pop vibes, we then come to the song Purple, which has a bit of a minimal indie feel to it. That is until you get to the end with those pulsating sirens, which I quite liked, weirdly. Then we come to the track The Cure, and I'm liking these cello or violin sounds, but it's really sounding like the track Disarm by the Smashing Pumpkins. But what we get is something more vulnerable from Olivia. There's so much music here that just feels kind of borrowed from other genres and other songs that it's hard to feel original in a sense, but it still sounds really good. We get some more slow songs, Beg Less and What Do You Want From Me featuring Robert Smith from The Cure, of course. It's really nice to hear Robert's voice, but I don't know what's going on here. I don't think it really works. I'm not sure if it was recorded live or something. Either way, the music feels thin, and Olivia is kind of the best thing about it. Luckily, things pick up again with the song Expectations. Yes, my expectations were high, and I can't be bothered to do that joke, sorry. It's 80s, but Kraftwerk, but kind of happy. I really like this song. The vocal melodies are fun, the instrumental is full and weighty. But after all this heartbreak and relationships, we have actually Olivia here giving careful consideration to her next partner, which is nice. The last few minutes of this track is great with those really big expectation lyrics, you know, and then you have this like robot voice coming in. I thought that was quite cool. I kind of wish that was the last song though, because it would have been such a great ender, a really positive one as well. But instead we get something a little more down tempo and a little more sad with Cigarette Smoke. I think the lyrics here are great actually. especially. It clings to my clothes and seeps into my bones. I feel you. It's sad and heartbreaking, even though the music has this sort of upbeat tempo to it. A bit of false hope to keep you going. So where does that leave You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So In Love? I think it's a good album, maybe even a very good album. But it's also one that I don't think quite reaches those highs. When she leans into those darker Cure-inspired sounds, you know, Maggots for Brains, etc., I think it sounds really good. It feels kind of fresh and exciting, and it really works with those vocals. This album shows that she's continuing to grow and not just remaking Sour over and over. The problem for me is that it wasn't always continuous momentum on this album. Still, amazing vocalist and a very charismatic performer. There's enough here, I think, that fans will absolutely love it, and enough experimentation to suggest that future projects are going to be pretty good as well. Overall, a fun listen and some genuinely good highlights. So all in all, I think I would give this album a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought down below. Sorry it's been so long since my last upload, but yeah, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, please. It helps me out. I hate asking, but so yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching, and catch you on the next one. Thank you so much.